Following on from the most recent episodes where we saw that Gino and Patrick were close to finding the Mai Tai killer who is Mr. Whiteley, these two brand new episodes developed on further, and we saw that episode 5 focused mainly on the disease that is infecting the population of New York City, and episode 6 focused on Patrick's dark past and the connection that he had to Mr. Whiteley that he never even realized existed. So with that, I thought I'd recap, break down, and explain all that there was to take away from these two episodes. So let's get into it. Here is American Horror Story New York City Season 11 Episode 5 and 6, Ending Explained. Just to let you know, this video will contain spoilers. Episodes 5 and 6 in the season were titled Bad Fortune and The Body. Both episodes served the purpose well in aligning with the title, in the sense that Bad Fortune was focused around many of the main characters such as Adam, Gino and Hannah visiting Fran, who was working as a tarot reader, and informing them of the bad news that they were set to receive. Witchcraft was a poignant lyric that opened the episode, and we saw this type of supernatural behavior occurring when it came to the readings taking place, with all of the cards turning into death, the angel of death appearing, and judgment, the devil and death being drawn as cards multiple times. The same was apparent for the episode titled The Body. This episode was focused around a body that was discovered on Fire Island and brought different arms of the story together, as it seems as though we're now going to see a lot of the characters' stories intertwine as we're halfway through the season. I'm going to break this video down by the main things to take away from these two new episodes. Big Daddy's identity confirmed. After the episodes last week, I was certain that Big Daddy was a type of Grim Reaper character that would only appear in front of certain individuals, and more specifically those who carried HIV/AIDS. However, the main burning question that I had that made me doubt this theory was, why did Hannah see him, as we've not seen her be intimate with anybody? Well, early on in the episode we heard that Adam was the sperm donor to her child that she's currently carrying, which means that she has most likely been infected with HIV/AIDS. As Adam has seen Big Daddy in the past and was one of the first people to see him. We saw Fran witnessed Big Daddy for the first time as well in this episode. This was after she was on the phone with somebody who it seems as though she had intimate activities with, and she was seen to be scratching herself as she had lesions on her body, showing that she's most likely contracted the disease too. Big Daddy appeared in front of Patrick inside of Barb's apartment in this episode too when he went round there, but there was no signs of forced entry or a sign of a break-in, which shows that Big Daddy is being used as a way of showing that death is on the horizon and is looming ever so closer. Everything that occurs with him is inside of the mind. I believe that Patrick trashed the apartment in a panic and a confused state because he believed that he did see Big Daddy. Big Daddy was last seen killing Barbara when she was in the shower, and we knew that she was suffering with her health as well, as we saw her pass out when signing the divorce papers. So it leads me to believe that Patrick had passed it on to her when they were together. Both Gino and Patrick have lesions on their body, and we saw Gino seeing Big Daddy in this episode too, so it leads me to believe that Patrick has also given the disease to Gino too. Big Daddy is a metaphor and a visual representation for death that is set to approach the individuals that have HIV/AIDS in their system. Back in the 80s, if you contracted the disease, it was highly likely that you would succumb to it, so this is why it's personified in this way. Patrick uttered the line, "This thing came for me and I don't think it's going to stop." It's a really interesting line to be created. He referred to Big Daddy as a thing, which would mean the disease, and it's not going to stop is likely referring to the fact that there was no cure or knowledge around AIDS back then, so he's likely going to die. It was a powerful choice of words. Why is Mr. Whiteley hunting people? In episode 6 of the show, we saw that Sam and Patrick were connected in a way like we could never have predicted, and it was hinted at in the previous episodes. This was all to do with Fire Island in 1979. They hooked up with somebody and the person that they were with died during the evening, leading them to bury the body. However, it got found and led them to go and tend to the issue that was now present 2 years later in 1981. During the flashback, we saw Henry, who it was revealed to us was a hitman, and he had a contact that he used in order to cut up what was in front of him when he was asked to deal with things. And this was Mr. Whiteley. So Mr. Whiteley and Patrick had been in the same room before. I don't feel like Patrick recognized him because of the shock and trauma of the event that occurred, which is why the sketch hasn't rung any bells. During this scene, we saw how much Mr. Whiteley enjoyed cutting the individual, the almost pleasure that he had as he was cutting and getting covered in blood. Once it was done, he was admiring the body, saying that he looked beautiful and that he deserved better, stating that somebody should have been there to protect him. In episode 5, we heard the very reason as to why he's doing what he's doing, and you could argue that the cutting up of the body in episode 6 could be what started it all. Mr. Whiteley is killing individuals to make a statement. He's using the body parts of all of his victims to build one individual person, a Sentinel, to which it's made up of as what he described as all of the people that the city swears to protect, but ultimately allows to be harmed, showing that what the city utters is not believable. The death of the individual that we saw on Fire Island showed him that the people in the community deserve better, deserve protection, and he's tired of the false statements that come from the mouths of people. One interesting thing that we learned about Mr. Whiteley was that he was in the closet, at least at the time of 1979. We don't know if he still is in 81, but that could also be a contributing factor to his behavior now. For example, if he did come out and his family disagreed, it could have led to the burning desire inside of him and for him to act upon his thoughts that he was having, as all that he previously thought would have been further supported by the lack of support or care that was there by the people who were supposed to love him the most. Is Henry going to survive? Right at the end of the episode, we saw that Henry met with Mr. Whiteley so that himself and Gino would be able to take him out and stop the serial killer from acting. Mr. Whiteley cottoned on to what was going on and managed to act first, leading him to drive Henry to his house in a state where he was unable to control his own body. Gino saw this occur and we saw him phone Patrick asking for his help before it cut to black and the episode drew to a close. I personally feel as though Henry will survive this. Mr. Whiteley doesn't have the amount of time to deal with Henry before Gino and Patrick storm in and cause a scene. Do I think Mr. Whiteley will be stopped at this moment? No. But judging by the trailer, it certainly looked as though Patrick and Gino were going to lay their eyes on the Sentinel and be in complete shock with what they've witnessed. I think Mr. Whiteley will manage to escape at this moment, and it won't be the last we'll see of him. I thought these 2 episodes were really good, some of the better ones so far. They built upon everything that we've had in the show so far, and it's telling the story of the AIDS epidemic in the 80s in a way like it's never been told before. It's drawing me in, ripping characters away, and we're seeing the suffering that's looming on the horizon and is set to sweep through a community of people. The 2 different arms of the story with the epidemic but also the serial killer in Mr. Whiteley is allowing the show to touch on 2 different issues in different ways. And whilst it's entertaining, it's also shining a light on the devastating events that occurred in the past, a matter of only 40 years ago. I'm looking forward to seeing where this show's going to go next and what's going to happen in the next 2 episodes. So, there you have it, American Horror Story New York City Season 11 Episode 5 and 6, Ending Explained. If you want to see more videos such as Endings Explained, theories and predictions and character breakdowns, then click on the I button. Or alternatively, you can head over to my channel where you'll find them all. If you'd like to give me a show or movie that you'd like me to review, then head over to my Twitter, @brainpilot_, and tweet me what show or movie you'd like me to review next. And finally, if you'd like to see what I rate the latest movies that don't quite make the cut to getting a dedicated video, then head over to my Letterboxd profile. It's where I rate the latest releases in real time. What did you think of these 2 episodes? Leave a comment down below. And don't forget to subscribe. I'll see you next time.